Just to give a little bit of introduction, the research from smart to wise started in 1988 when I became a research fellow at Apple Computer, where I was asked to design tools that augment human intelligence. As a part of it, I went ahead and along with two other people, one Bill Atkinson and Alan Kay, some of us, we really looked at how do people learn, how do people think, how do people create, how do people lead, and how do people collaborate. These are the 5 areas we tried to investigate. So we ended up talking to about 17 Nobel laureates, several spiritual leaders, several highly accomplished people from various disciplines. And at that time, it became very clear there are 2 different paths in which we can continue to do leadership or learning or any of them. One is learning that leads to information is more about data, information, knowledge, which is the external technology development. Other one, learning that leads to wisdom, that is much more internal development. So we found out those 2 paths several times don't necessarily automatically come together. And as a proof, when we came back and tried to design some tools based on what we have learned from these 200 people interviews and all of them, we found out actually they were not translatable. The technology tools didn't necessarily always work. So I decided to quit Apple Computer and work with companies and people to see whatever we have learned from these highly intelligent, highly what you might call operational individuals, can we transfer the set of skills and knowledge to some other people so that they could act with more wisdom. That seems to work a lot more, and that's the research which I've been doing for past 22 years. And this book, in addition to the interviews which I had done at that time, we had done 40 interviews with various senior executives from variety of companies, including like Sam Palmisano of IBM, John Mackey of Whole Foods, or Alan Mulally of Ford. So variety of people we have actually done interviews for this book. Navi Radjou is a strategy consultant. He used to be in Forrester Research. He had more analyst background, whereas I brought in the teaching, research and consulting background. So when we began to work together effectively, we realized in some respects he was able to help me to process whatever I was doing at a first level, because he was not a leadership expert. He was able to say very quickly what works and what doesn't work. And so it became a very powerfully like a design thinking exercise. Writing the book itself became first, I had to really process it and talk to him. And he had to get back to me saying, out of all what you said, this is actionable, this is actually something that makes sense to me, and let's work together. And after we worked together, we took it to an editor from a Wall Street Journal, Business Week kind of an editor, because we had to make a choice between creating an academic book that would have a lot of rigor which is built into it, but it may not necessarily be useful for practicing managers. So we made a choice to make this little bit more towards the trade book, more towards practicing managers, and less towards academic rigorous researchers. So from that aspect, we needed the readability of the book to be much higher and the ease of understanding application to be higher. So what you see here in this book, which is about 250 pages in size, is a lot more case studies based on large number of interviews, and then we have some tools to make smart people to reflect, introspect and choose what actions they need to take. And finally, it comes down to set of questions, introspective exercises, and we even have a wise leader assessment that people can take either before they read the book, or it is part of the first chapter itself, so they can take it and then they can use it as a way to go forward. When you look at some of these people on the screen, you have Andrea Wang is with one of the companies, which she's a CEO, and Indra Nui is the CEO of PepsiCo. Alan Malali is the CEO of Ford, and Ratan Tata is with the Tata Motors. He was the chairman of the Tata Motors. He just retired. So these are all various people whom we have. So if you try to look at them from smart or wise, any comments on them?
I don't know if you would be able to tell from just the picture.
Just the picture. No, unless you know who they are, you won't be able to tell. How about these people? So I take it that these are more popular, are more known. Just in case you don't know, Mother Teresa and Rosa Parks and Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Dalai Lama. How many of you think these people are wise? Can you raise your hands?
Yeah, of course.
So most of you. Okay. How about smart? How many of you think they are smart?
Well, smart and wise. Right?
Smart and wise. So that's an interesting perspective. So if you are online, you might also want to think about whether when they are wise, are they also smart? Because when I presented this in different forums, whether it was in Singapore or whether it was in India, sometimes they said, they don't need to be smart anymore. As a matter of fact, they said, what if smartness is in the way of wisdom? Okay. What if smartness is something that they have to surmount and transcend for them to be wise? So generally there is a pejorative sense about being smart. Like somebody who is savvy trying to take advantage of it.
I wonder if that's, I'm just curious because smart in terms of multicultural, I wonder what connotation smart has versus intelligent.
Yes. I looked at that. I looked at variety of research reports that have been done by people who are in Harvard University, like Howard. Then, for example, different people who looked at intelligence and they looked at multiple intelligences. Howard Gardner specialized in multiple intelligences, but there are several other people who looked at intelligence from different angles.
Yeah.
So when you look at smartness, you can talk about street smart, or a business savvy, he's too smart for his own good, or she is a smart one, she can figure it out. So there are different ways in which intelligence is used. So the general definition I have used in this book for smartness is, it is about application of intelligence for self-interest. If I take Adam Smith,
for selfishness?
Self-interest.
Self-interest.
Yeah, like many of the things which we do, if we look at it like self-interest is something that is extremely important for a business to prosper. So from that perspective, smart people are able to take advantage of their intelligence, apply it and act on their intelligence for their own benefit. So that is one definition which I have given for the time being. And now let me ask people who are on this screen. So much younger folks, Mark Zuckerberg or Marissa Mayer or the Google founders, if you look at them, how many of you think they are smart? Raise your hand. And if you are if you are online, you may have to just send a note. So some of you. How about wise? No. One or two.
Little bit.
I'm sorry? Little bit.
Because of the age.
Because of the age.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
One of the things we're not hearing, I think because we're running
Okay, I'll repeat
with
that.
the computer, they're not.
I'll repeat them. So there was a comment here in the room saying that they may not be wise because of the age, while they are smart. So I want you to think about, is there an assumption that smartness is not dependent on how old they are, but wisdom is dependent on how old they are? So is that possible that we have a certain underlying belief that wisdom comes with age, but if you are younger, it is not possible for them to be wise in general? I'm just asking. Let us challenge that, because that's a myth which I examined quite a bit.
And again, wisdom in terms of, all-rounded wisdom or, wisdom in the areas of their expertise or smartness.
A comment in the room that is coming up is that how are we defining wisdom?
Right.
Is the wisdom defined in a larger context or something else? So in that particular scenario, I would also take one more set of people before I actually will define wisdom from my own angle. So if you look at these people, Meg Whitman of Hewlett Packard, or Bill Gates of Gates Foundation, or Tim Cook and Steve Jobs, if you look at them, would you call them smart? Please raise your hands. So about half the room raise their hands. Okay, most of them. How about wise?
Sort of.
Sort of. Can you tell me why would you say sort of, and what are the assumptions you have about wisdom they meet or do not meet?
I think for me, I know that sort of listening to several interviews of Bill Gates as he's grown older,
Yep.
and the things he's been involved in now versus when he was younger, and,
Yeah.
and also some of the information based on Tim Cook and Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about Meg Whitman, but
Okay.
yeah.
So
So it's like more knowing about what they've done and how they portray their smartness and wise wisdom.
So you are not sure. So
Yeah.
one of the comments in the room you might not have heard is that based on what they know, what she knows, she is not too sure about the wisdom yet. So from some of the comments or some of the press reports which she received about Meg Whitman or Bill Gates seems to be sort of, but not quite sure about their wisdom yet. There is another comment from.
Oh, I just feel like smart is kind of what you said. It's like I associate a company that makes a lot of money
Mhm.
and grows and has profits as smart, but I don't associate really like money with wise. I feel like it's like the other side, more of like a heart type thing.
Okay.
And I also feel like no one ever talks about kind of like the negative repercussions of technology, and if they were wise, they might consider that impact globally more so, and so that's where I don't really know if I would consider them wise.
Okay. So the comment again in the room from Diane is that there are various parameters which we'll have to pay attention to
Yeah.
for determining somebody is wise or not. Because there are too many definitions and set of assumptions that each of us have got about wisdom, unless we create a shared definition of wisdom, it will be difficult for us to make a statement regarding their wisdom or not, they are wise or not.